Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bellingham City Council, our afternoon committee meetings. The first committee this afternoon is, it's Parks and Recreation. April, are you ready?
I am ready.
Great.
I'm joined with Councilmember Vargas and Murphy. Today we have a report from Director Bryson regarding the Development Division, Parks and Recreation Department work plan for 2017-18.
Thank you. Nicole Oliver, our Design Development Manager, is here today, and she's going to give you an overview of that division's work plan for the year. And in the coming months, we'll be bringing our Recreation Division work plan and also our Operations Division. And I'm happy to report we've hired a new Operations Manager because Marvin Harris retired at the end of January, if you weren't aware. And Steve Janiszewski starts on actually next Monday. I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you, Leslie. Hi, I'm Nicole Oliver, the Parks Development Manager. I'm going to go through quite a few slides, and just bear with me. And I promise I won't take more than 10 minutes of your time. So I know you're going to have questions. So here's our organizational chart for the department. I am the manager of the Design and Development Division. We are 5 people. We get an amazing amount of work done. We have a lot of resources, and we leverage funding from Greenway's Park Impact Fee, REIT funding, and a lot of grants. What we do is right there. That's our mission. We plan, acquire, design, and develop parks, trails, and open space in accordance with the comprehensive plan. Other things that we do, I've been doing a lot of lately, is private development review. We review development happening throughout the city and make sure that if there's any park or trail implications that the landowner is aware of them. We work on community planning with our park recreation and open space plan. We mitigate and monitor wetlands. We are in charge of the facility and land inventory for all of our parks. We do mapping, and we make sure people don't dump their stuff in parks and don't encroach into parks, and we manage the design standards for how things need to be built. This is the Park Recreation and Open Space Plan, recently updated back in November. We do update it every 6 years, a little different than the comp plan, 4 years. So it is 6, that's right. So it'll be again in 2020. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you've asked us to do in regards to that with level of service. What I'm embarking on right now is a GIS inventory and analysis by area of all of our park amenities. I'm using the data that's in the park plan right now. It's tables that we did in a survey and inventory, and we're going to be able to assess all sorts of things like miles of trails, acres of parks, restrooms, playgrounds, and where they are situated around town. Right now, one of our key level of service indicators is how far people are away in walking from a park. And you can see along the Baker View, we've got a swath of white emptiness. This is where all of the development reviews that I'm doing are happening right now too. So we're trying to make sure that we're getting those trail corridors in our North Bellingham Trail Plan added as part of those developments. The second thing that data is going to help inform is an evaluation of our park impact fee. It's a formula based on the cost of supporting the entire system, and updating that data is going to help us. We're going to work with the planning department on that as well. We'd like to get to a different, other than just multifamily and single family, we want to try and do something that has to do with the actual impact of the unit on the park system, something a little more equitable. So you're going to be hearing a lot more of that. It's just starting, but I wanted to let you know it's coming. So acquisitions, we acquire property. I wanted to mention that my staff is here, Gina Austin, Jonathan Schilk, and Tim Wall. And I want to specifically thank Tim Wall for his many years of service. He's retiring at the end of this month. I know. So this is a breakdown that we did at a summary level of Greenway's right before the last vote in November that kind of breaks down the city into regions. And this may be the same way that we break down kind of the way amenities are spread out over the city. I want to use this, I don't want to use it by neighborhood because it's too small. We have too many neighborhoods. It won't be, it'll be hard to digest that much data. So I'm thinking we'll do it more areas of town. I'm not quite sure. It kind of depends on how the data all shakes out. So as far as greenways, we have a updated Greenways 4 strategic plan underway with the Greenways Advisory Committee. That will be coming forward to you probably in the fall. And our priority right now is to complete what we've funded, which we still haven't spent and done everything we said we were going to do with the last greenways. And then we're going to focus on equitable access and capital maintenance in this initial phase, which you're going to be hearing about more too. So here are the capital project locations I'm going to cover all over town. So like I said, we do a lot of work with a little bit of staff. These are the ones that are completed or underway right now, including the community parks and master plans, as well as work down on the waterfront. Squalicum Creek Bay to Baker, this was a very big construction project, a lot of planning, worked together with Public Works, and we have some good news from the railroad. They might be willing to talk to us again about that future phase right in the middle. And we are just fine working with Public Works also on the second section of the reroute of Bug Lake, the creek around Bug Lake. We're talking about that as well, and then I'll tell you in a little bit about the trail through Cornwall Park. So that was a big project, very exciting, enormous pedestrian access thoroughfare through town. There's one of our enormous bridges that were put in, and there's what it looks like right now. I hope you've all been out there. It's pretty cool. Here's another little project. These are these restrooms that we build, fabricate, and then deliver and install. And this was up at Whatcom Falls. There's a video on YouTube if you want to watch the crane put it down. It's pretty funny. You should check it out. There's the restroom. Here's Cordata Community Park Master Plan. This went through an extensive public process. April was there, quite a bit of it. Michael, I think you were there too. This is in the rezone process. It's going to Planning Commission to make sure we can build a park there. And it will be going straight into phase 1 design. Right now, the amenities include a through trail system, a pavilion, a playground, pump track, maybe a spray park, pickleball courts too. This is the very exciting Whatcom Waterway park plan. Park naming is going to be going to Park Board this week. We have quite a number of suggestions. This includes a beach, which is going to be extraordinary to have right there at the end of Holly. And eventually the park will extend south along the waterway to another node that will come along with future development. The first thing we're doing is closing the gap between Central Avenue and the building. And we already did install this new piling. And the next phase is going out to bid April 20th, opening bid. And then that will close the gap and build some really nice seating around the building and have it accessible probably before the granary is actually going to be occupied. And then the park's going to go to bid in June and probably be built over the fall, winter. There's only certain times we can do work in the waterway, so it's going to be a longer-term project, but it's going to go to bid in June. Very exciting. So here are some upcoming projects I want to highlight that are happening very soon. Actually, a couple of them are already underway. Just in the time that I did this presentation, it's already happening. So, Cornwall Park Trail. This is where we used to live on Cornwall Park. The building is going to be demolished. We're going to replace it with a trail that hooks into our new Bay to Baker Squalicum Creek Trail. And then eventually, hopefully, this will cross this direction and continue down the railroad corridor all the way to the bay. Maritime Heritage Park restroom, expensive project, but it's going to be an amazing amenity for this park. 24/7, unheated, lighted restroom, following the Portland Loo concept, came out of a planning effort. It was, it's been permitted, designed, and will be going out to bid on Friday, right? So that will probably be constructed right around September, October. Lighting. Anything in Maritime Park is complicated because of the landfill. And so we designed the lighting for the entire park, but we're going to build it in phases. See how we like it and see how it works, but it's pretty expensive. So phase 1 is going to go right along the creek, the yellow, and that's kind of looks yellow, but it's green, greenish yellow, and then the blue along the base of the bluff. We've worked with police, we've worked with to make sure the lights are fish friendly, they're night sky friendly, they're LED, they look good, and we're really hoping that the light is going to start to help with some of the criminal activity that we've had as a problem there. Okay, Fever Creek Bridge, it's going to be done at the end of May. It's already happening. So this is going to be a very important pedestrian connection to Roosevelt Elementary School. We had to build it quite a bit. It looks a lot different than the former one due to the rules, fish passage. We got the grant for the Bloedel floating docks. Our grant was rated number 2 out of 40-some grant applications in the whole state. It's going to fund 75% of the project. We've already have notices up there. It will be built sometime in January, February of 2018. I'm not even using my notes. Got to make sure I don't forget anything. Let's see here. This is really going to be a cool project. I walked this with Jonathan when I first started, and it's where on Wellborn Street, when you drive up parallel to Whatcom Falls, there's this little kind of cruddy parking lot. We're going to completely improve that parking, improve the stormwater for the wetlands next to it, and there's an existing road that traverses right up the hill and turns around and comes right into another trail that our ops folks put in last year. So it's going to be funded partially by Olympic pipeline money, and it's going to connect right into Whatcom Falls Park. It's going to be a really important connector. Whatcom Falls Pump Track. This is, we have the dirt is in place. It's going to be a way to train kids and adults. I actually went on one in Leavenworth last week. It was fun. It's how to go up and down on your bike with your body, and we're going to see how it works. It's a partnership with the Whatcom Mountain Bike Coalition, and this is getting installed right now in Whatcom Falls, and then they will be building it and maintaining it. Other things going on, we're going to talk about capital maintenance with you in May. I'm going to go over Boulevard Park. I'm going to try and speed up a little bit, and a few more things really quickly. So we've got lots of capital maintenance, and we now have funding. So we're going to come back in May and ask for us to be able to spend this money. We've prioritized an enormous list down to what we think we can do now that we should do first. So you're going to be getting that with a budget ordinance in May. Lake Padden, we're going to be doing some improvements to the trails. We're going to, the sewer line fix is in design, and we're going to study how to fix the drainage in the playfields. That's going to be coming. Boulevard Park, we have lots of projects down here. We just had an overview today with the mayor on all of these, and there's a cleanup site that is that big. We just put a new sign down there, and it freaked everyone out. We just updated a sign that's been there for years, but we did it on a yellow background, and everyone's like, what do you mean it's contaminated? So we have a shoreline repair from erosion, and we have the overpass and utilities, the pedestrian overpass. So we'll talk about each of those. The Boulevard Park cleanup, this is a coal-fired gas manufacturing plant that operated from the 1890s to the 1940s. It polluted this whole red area, and then it went all the way out into here. So we're still studying and coming up with a feasibility for the cleanup plan. The good news is it's 75% of the cleanup is the responsibility of, well, they're agreeing right now to pay Puget Sound Energy. 12.5% is paid for by Department of Ecology, and then we only have to pay 12.5%. So our current plan is to roll this latest storm erosion shoreline repair. It's exposing this levels of fill that's also contaminated. So we are going to do a temporary interim repair until we have the full, complete cleanup and repair, and that will involve removing the wharf and putting some armoring and capping in place these shorelines that are getting eroded. The overpass, built back when we did not have an at-grade crossing into the park, and we also didn't have South Bay Trail. It holds all the utilities for Boulevard Park, except for one. I think gas doesn't go through that. So we are studying. We just got a study done to a feasibility, and we're looking at alternate ways to get those utilities across the railroad. And we want to go this way. But we have to negotiate that with the railroad. So that's where we're at with that. Pedestrian overpass is not going to reopen. Just want to tell you straight. It's too expensive to rebuild, and it is failing structurally. So we are going to temporarily hold it up while we reroute the utilities, but it's not going to come back. Sportsplex Roof, this is another maintenance project that's been outstanding for a while. Got to come to figure out a plan for it. It's failing. Squalicum Creek Park zip line, one of our most popular attractions, is getting replaced. We got a refund from the vendor because it kept breaking, and it will be put in here. When is this going in? June? I think June. And the Fairhaven columns are going to be taken down on Wednesday. We're going to see what we can do. So we'll let you know. But we're going to hold the historic pieces and see what we can do. And there's a new playground that will be replacing the Ridgemont Park playground. It's quite old and it needs to be replaced. That's going to be happening this year too. Any questions?
Committee, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Roxanne.
One of the things I really appreciate about Greenway's levees is it continues to show how much our community really supports all of this work in our park management and development. I was just wondering, do those levees have any kind of deadline for spending, as we're still trying to spend the prior levy and we may have issues trying to spend the current one?
I don't know. Leslie?
I would probably turn that over to legal. There may be, but we've always spent it within, I know we've always spent the previous levy because we're still collecting the money last year. So we have about 2 projects left to do. The Lake Padden is one of the projects, and then that project that she mentioned at Whatcom Falls is another one that's partly funded with the Greenway levies, but we're wrapping it up.
Okay. Pinky, do you have any questions? Okay. I have a question regarding level of service and a date. So this was correct from the comprehensive plan, and there were 2 things that we asked for. One, a level of service that took into account social economic status, and then also a level of service for accessibility to the waterfront. Mm-hmm. So I know that being on the Parks Board, they're kind of going through what their priorities are. The Greenways is also doing that, and I think it'd be a really valuable tool. So I'm wondering, we're thinking that will come back to council for approval what time this year?
We're thinking probably September.
Okay.
It's going to be a process of developing methods to measure equity that are real and useful. So it's not an easy task. And the first thing we have to do is have a method to work with the actual data, which we also don't have, mapped out regionally by area. And then you compare that with some sort of socioeconomic. We did that first step with the
Free and reduced lunch.
Yep, free and reduced lunches. So
Okay.
it's going to be it's one of my work program items. So
Okay. Do you need to bring it to committee to discuss any of those, or are you wanting to bring the full plan?
as
for
soon as I
approval?
have some more data, I'd like to come back, and I think I'll have At time, maybe before May, I can at least have a better idea of how things are going and what we're going to do, that I could show you when we ask for the budget ordinance for Greenways funding.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Michael?
Thanks. So I have a couple questions. Start with a small one. The lighting in Maritime Heritage Park, do you mind if I ask about the color temperature of that lighting? I'm one of the people who doesn't like the color of our new LED lights. I'm just wondering if the color has also been considered for the park lighting.
I will say that when we worked with the police, the neighborhood police officers were involved in this, and after changing the lighting along the main pathway, it's a lot easier to recognize people with the new lighting. You can actually see what's the color of the clothes they're wearing. But I would ask Jonathan to answer maybe what we're looking at as far as tone. So they will be LED lights, but as far as what tone they are.
Well, let me just indicate that there's a difference between what's called a color rendering index, which is how well you can see things in their true color, and the color temperature, which is responded to emotionally.
Right.
So I'm asking for a nicer color temperature, but you can still get a 100% CRI.
Any idea?
You're going to laugh. It's going to be white. It will be similar colored. It will be a similar temperature as what exists along the main walkway,
Okay.
along Maritime, which is white.
I'm going to suggest that
it's
some of
hot.
the colors we're using now are not popular, and we can get great visibility with a different color temperature.
Pinky?
I just wanted to make a comment on lighting, that this is a public safety issue in this park. It's not necessarily going to be the most ambient, so I think that that is our priority, and just wanted to throw that out there.
You
Not
worked,
a neighborhood.
thank you. You worked with Renee's group probably on talking about the wildlife, it sounded like, so it has full purview through that, because you saw what happened with 8th Street over in Fairhaven. You feel pretty confident that as far as the wildlife is concerned, this will be the appropriate temperature? Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right. Any other? Dan? Michael?
Thank you for your presentation this afternoon. My understanding was that Maritime Heritage had staffing for, I think, 10 hours a day during the summer last year. Is the intent to keep that going this year?
Yes, that's some of our recreation staffing, and we actually, our first person is already started. That's a 6-month position, and then by May, our second person will be on, and we'll have 7-day-a-week, 10-hour-per-day coverage from mid-May to mid-September.
Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, you, Nicole, thank you. Excellent presentation. I love everything that's going on. You talked about, with regard to the kind of service areas, you didn't know what areas you're going to be using. I think I just want to suggest that maybe you shouldn't decide that you let the data kind of tell you. Once you have all the data, I think maybe the answer will kind of be obvious to you.
I think you're right. I just wanted to point out that we have done things by area with Greenways, and that is that we're going to look at how much we've spent on maintenance in different areas as well, that we're going to be mining our finance system for data on the amount that we've spent maintaining different parks, as well as what is actually in each park.
Michael?
One final question. About the Greenway's strategic plan. In the past, the Greenways has had its own separate standalone document, somewhat detailed. It obviously needs to dovetail with the pro plan, but it was a separate document that the City Council adopted, and then it was revised and adopted again. For Greenways 4, are we going to be having kind of a separate, kind of a satellite document specifically for Greenways?
That's what we're working on updating. In the past, it was focused on acquisition, because the acquisition on where we're going to spend the money on acquisition. This time we'll look at looking at both acquisition and development, and because we know the levy is for 7 years and how much money is coming in, and that we're spending 42% on development and approximately 33% on acquisition. What are we going to focus on with that money?
Right. I think there's a degree of kind of transparency kind of required of us because it is a levy-based voter-approved thing. So that'll be a great document.
But the first thing we want to come forward with very soon, as Nicole mentioned, is in May, is because we have a huge backlog of capital maintenance, and 25% of the new levy can be used for that. We already have a list of projects that we've prioritized to bring forward to you for a mid-year budget ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Roxanne.
I just wanted to thank the Parks Department for this entire body of work, and it was really nice to start today with some good news.
Positive, yeah. And Tim, thank you so much for your service to the city. Really appreciate you sticking around to download all of your institutional knowledge that I'm sure is so difficult to translate to all the staff, but I'm sure you'll be sticking around for us to ask questions. But yes, thank you so much for your service, and end of committee.
Thank you. We'll take a brief break and come back with the next committee, which is Community and Economic Development.